Okay, let's dive into this explainer and completely shatter an illusion you've probably had at some point. You walk into a packed gym on a Monday evening, right? The treadmills are absolutely humming, the weight room is loud, there's a huge line at the front desk, and you think to yourself, wow, this place must be the easiest money-printing business in the world. Well, prepare to have your mind changed, because you're actually looking at the 1 hour of the day that lies to you the most.
So let's hook right into the core mystery of this whole industry and ask a really counterintuitive question. One that kind of challenges everything you think you know about fitness. What if the most profitable customer is the one who literally never shows up?
Now, what's really interesting here is the massive paradigm shift. On the surface, you see the illusion, a fitness business selling health and access to equipment. But the reality? It's actually a subscription business that just happens to have dumbbells in it. The moment you understand that fundamental difference, everything about how a gym makes and quietly loses money suddenly starts to make a whole lot of sense.
Part 1. The Hidden Cost Trap. Let's look at what it actually takes to open a gym.
Think about this massive number for a second. 2,000 cubic feet per minute. You see, a standard retail space is simply not built to handle a room full of people generating intense heat and moisture for hours at a time. Legal building codes actually dictate a specific formula for fresh air, and for a room with 100 sweating bodies, you need over 2,000 cubic feet of fresh air pumped in every single minute. That requires an industrial-grade HVAC system, a hidden cost that can easily run $10,000 to $50,000 alone before you've sold a single membership.
And the initial build-out costs? They stack up incredibly fast. You need specialized rubber flooring so dropped barbells don't completely shatter the concrete beneath them. You need moisture-resistant locker rooms. You need those heavy-duty, floor-to-ceiling mirrors. By the time you add the deposit, the licenses, and the big opening marketing push, an owner can easily require anywhere from $300,000 to over $1 million in cash just to legally unlock the front doors.
Then, owners face this dangerous equipment trap. Buying equipment outright drains $40,000 to $250,000 of your essential cash reserves right when you need them the most to survive those slow early months. But leasing? Well, leasing sounds smart, except it locks you into fixed 8% interest payments. And here's the absolute kicker. Those payments are a contractual obligation that legally follows you out the door, even if the gym goes under.
Now, you might think opening on a super busy city street solves all your problems, but in reality, 80% of your addressable market is coming from just a 10 to 15-minute commute. Actually, scratch that, it's practically your entire realistic market. It means your gym's pricing must perfectly match that specific neighborhood's income level. Otherwise, there is just no way you'll ever be able to afford the premium rent prices of a highly visible storefront.
Part 2. The Ghost Member Economy. Let's talk about who is actually paying the bills.
Picture a coin flip contrasting two totally different types of customers. On one side, you've got the 3 times a week regular. This member actually costs the gym real money and capacity. They use the hot water, they put wear and tear on the expensive treadmill belts, and they take up valuable floor space during peak hours. Against them is the January Ghost member. They signed up, but they never come in. Their cost of service is effectively zero. They require no hot water, no towels, no floor space, making their monthly payment 100% pure profit.
Brace yourself for this stat, because the reality of the industry is absolutely stunning. Consistently, data shows that 2 out of every 3 gym members rarely or never use the gym they are paying for. 2 out of 3. Let that sink in. The majority of the revenue for low-cost gyms relies heavily on people who do not exercise there. The absent customer is, for sure, the most valuable one.
And just to prove that this is absolutely by design, let's run the math together. If a gym has 7,000 members, its floor might be legally capped by fire codes at roughly 250 people at a time. If just 10% of that membership base showed up simultaneously, you'd have 700 people trying to cram into that room. They would aggressively violate fire codes within minutes. The gym is basically selling a giant statistical bet that most paying members will not use the space at the same time or at all.
This whole system is driven by a massive seasonal wave. January alone drives an incredible 12% of all annual signups. Gyms heavily discount and market to New Year's resolution makers to get a huge upfront cash injection. But we have to warn you, up to 80% of those specific resolution makers will completely quit showing up by summer. That actually makes February the highest risk month for a gym, because the initial motivation fades away way before a real habit is formed.
Part 3. The Psychology of Staying. Let's break down exactly why we keep paying.
The psychology keeping you subscribed is honestly fascinating.
People stay out of optimism for a future version of themselves. They use that monthly fee as a sort of commitment device, hoping the payment literally forces them to go. And then there's pure inertia, right? Canceling means admitting defeat. Even the environmental design choices play a massive role. Gyms deliberately use hard, directional lighting in weight rooms to create visible muscle definition. And they pump in faster music tempos because science shows it genuinely lowers your perceived effort. It's all strategically aimed at keeping members emotionally attached.
Oh, but trying to leave? That's a whole different story. Let's expose the deliberate cancellation friction. A lot of gyms will force you to cancel in person or by certified mail with a return receipt, demanding 30 to 60 days notice just so they can squeeze out one last billing cycle. The friction is so high that 30 to 40% of all churn comes simply from credit cards naturally expiring. But things are changing. By October 2026, New York City is implementing a strict click-to-cancel rule, carrying massive $500 penalties for gyms that make canceling difficult. A real game changer.
And hidden costs can strike out of absolutely nowhere. Imagine a sudden fine of $150,000 in statutory damages per song. This is the music licensing trap. You literally can't just play your personal Spotify account in a commercial gym. You have to pay multiple performing rights organizations $1,300 to $4,000 annually. If you fail to do so, field investigators will report you, and you risk literal federal copyright destruction. It's a perfect example of how costs are just buried in licensing agreements.
Part 4. The path to profit. How does a gym actually survive this math? Let's look under the hood at the mechanical core engine of the business. If your fixed costs, like rent, payroll, and utilities, are $30,000 a month and your average dues are $89, you need exactly 337 members just to break even. But here is the terrifying part for an owner. It takes 12 to 18 grueling months of burning through your cash reserves before you ever reach that basic break-even point.
Keeping those members is a constant, exhausting battle against churn. That's the percentage of members who cancel every year. The industry average sits at an astonishing 30 to 40%. This means if a 500-member gym loses just 5% of its members a month, it must acquire 300 brand new signups over a single year just to run in place. That's not growing the business. It's like sprinting on a treadmill just to stand completely still. So when membership dues aren't enough, gyms hack their margins by scaling personal training. A trainer working one-on-one hits a hard revenue ceiling of about $100,000 a year. You just run out of hours in the day. So the gym breaks that ceiling by scaling to small group classes. If you have 4 clients paying $40, that single hour suddenly generates $160. The gym then takes a 50 to 70% cut, radically transforming the profitability of that exact same floor space.
Now, what about franchising? It sounds safer, right? You get an established brand name and a proven layout. But it comes at an incredibly steep price. You pay an upfront franchise fee, and then you trade permanent slices of your top-line revenue, 5 to 10% in royalties, plus a national marketing fund fee. You really have to ask yourself if that brand recognition brings in enough extra volume to cover what you hand back to corporate every single month.
Ultimately, there are 2 very different versions of this business. The optimistic case is great. Low churn, the perfect neighborhood, and the owner takes home a healthy $70,000 to $180,000. But the realistic outcome is far more common. It's the quiet, unglamorous death by 1,000 cuts. A new budget competitor opens nearby, a few treadmills break, resulting in a surprise $3,000 repair bill, and suddenly you're sliding into single-digit margins or outright losses, even while the parking lot outside looks completely full.
It all comes down to one defining truth. It was never really about how many people you can get to sign up. It's about how well you can survive on the people who stop showing. So the next time you scan your key tag or realize you haven't actually scanned it in months, I want you to ask yourself, which side of this business model are you really funding? Think about that, and we'll see you in the next explainer.